moments and maybe remember somebody that passed in your life and remember them and thank God once again that God put them into your life. And so if we can, let's have a few moments of silence. Well, but I want to reverse the order.
I got something too. I'm leaving at 10:45.
All right, now hang on. All right. We got 2 objections already. Boy, this is starting out great. All right, let's go. What Miss Gales? Miss Tyson?
I gotta go. I got a commitment to some children that I will not miss.
Okay.
Say 10:30, I'm out of here.
10:30, you're out of here. Okay. What do you have that needs to go first?
Not on mine. I'm talking about on y'all.
Okay.
In general.
Okay, don't be long-winded.
Absolutely. Good.
Oh, wait a minute.
Good morning, Commissioners.
For my control.
We have our committee report for Public Works, Community Services, and Intergovernmental Relations. We have 2 items for environmental services. Is that something, Carol or David, that you'd like to speak to? All right, both items have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
We have no items for general retirement system, human resources, compliance office, personnel board of Jefferson County. We have items 1, 2, and 3. 4 will be separate. Do we have any questions as relates to items 1, 2, and 3?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All right, item number 4 is a contract with the Sports Council. I have sent everyone information. We'll go ahead and start with Mr. John Orris. This contract, first of all, would be with the Alabama Sports Council. You all should already have this. And I just wanted to make sure that we have it again this morning. Go ahead, Mr. Orris, if you would start by this report that we have as relates to the economic impact of the Magic City Classic, please. And then after that, we'll have Gene Holman.
You'd already sent this?
Yeah, the contract was in the backup.
It wasn't on the back.
Yeah, it was in the backup. All you gotta do is look on the county's website.
This contract has been changed.
As of
Yes.
yesterday, it was
No,
not on the
as of Friday, it was. In fact, it was there on Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, I looked online, looked for it.
No, well, online I saw it, and so there you have it. It's nothing new. Everything is in order. All right, come on. Would you like to say?
Well, it's standard, yes.
And let everyone know who you are.
John Orris of the Greater Birmingham Convention Visitors Bureau. Thank you for the opportunity. The Magic City Classic is a very high-impact event for the tourism industry in Birmingham, Jefferson County. It is one of our signature events. Its impact is very high. One of the great things about it is, first of all, it's got a great history here. It has people and residents always support it. It employs a number of people, a lot of people in our industry that when they come here, and that's one of the great things about having an event like this, where outside visitors come in and they spend their dollars here. That generates new tax dollars for our residents. It offsets, it helps support many, many jobs while they're here. And it helps out our hotels, our restaurants, our retail stores, etc. And it has a high economic impact. And one of the great things about this event is that it runs what, in our industry, we look for events that last over multiple days. So the longer people are here, the more money they're going to spend in the community. So the length of stay with this event, as opposed to many other bowl games where people come in for 1 or 2 nights in other cities and other destinations. This one is a 5-day event. People start coming in slowly on Monday, the Monday before the game, and then Tuesday it starts to ramp up. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's all ramping up towards the weekend. And that's what gives it its high economic impact. We think it's important for us, and pandemic, the game was canceled during 2020, but and I'll ask my colleague David Galbada to address some of the difference between what direct impact is and indirect impact is, and indirect total impact is. But the direct impact, this is actual dollars that are spent by the visitors while they're here. Ranges anywhere from $11 million in 2018, this is pre-pandemic. Of course, in 2019, very strong numbers at almost $11 million. And then in 2021, of course, the game was canceled during the pandemic. But during 21, it dropped down to $7.3 million. But we were very, very happy to have Alaska back in 21, which was a rebound year after. We're still rebounding. The travel industry is still rebounding from the pandemic. So it's great to have these events. And then in 22, we were up to $12.5 million, almost back to, or past normal, past what we did back in 18 and 19. So, David, did you want to address the indirect economic impact?
Sure, yeah.
That the commissioners have?
I'll just be brief and use 22 as an example. So for business sales, their direct impact, direct impact was $12,520,000. And so when you couple that with the total business, which is, or the total direct impact, or the total impact rather, is 21,380. So you can see clearly a market difference between that, and that's when the dollar rolls over in your community. So that's ultimately that gives you that 21,380,000 number. So it's clearly huge, and this is like
Explain how it rolls over.
Well, you have the dollar that comes to your community, and then ultimately the whether it's you're a hotelier, you work in a hotel. I mean, you go out and spend that money back in your community. So that's exactly what happens there. So.
And it supports those dollars are other businesses that are related to the classic, that support the classic. So you have vendors, you have food vendors, you have all sorts of other different vendors that are indirectly affected and impacted by the presence of the classic. So,
Thank
anything else?
No, you're fine.
Where do these numbers come from?
So that it's a breakdown. Right?
Yeah, we have an economic impact calculator, so we put the numbers in, and ultimately comes up with both of these numbers. So that's crafted specifically for the Birmingham community.
Alright, this the same process y'all use for the World Games, impact that they did, right?
Every event that we have, we run through that impact calculator. But
I see. Yeah. We have to clarify something about the World Games because I saw your reaction to that. The World Games, the original economic impact that was done back in 2013, and it was not done by the Convention Visitors Bureau. It was done by the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame and had the University of Alabama's Culverhouse School of Economics do that study, and that included a lot of different factors that totaled or culminated in the numbers that they reported. So I want that to be made clear for the record.
All right, we have no more questions. Then Gene Holman and I see Perry and King just walked in.
So this young man got up at 4:30 this morning to drive from Mobile. He was at Mardi Gras yesterday. You're going to have to cut the Mardi Gras short and get up here for this meeting. So
Bear with me, Mr. Holman. So I wanted the commission to know why Mr. Holman is here today. We actually started this journey, as John knows, back in December. Being that the commission thought of me as the HBCU liaison, I knew that one of the things that we needed to do was to get past funding for Magic City Classic. It's the largest in the nation. It just happens to be hosted right here in our county. Traditionally, Commissioner Tyson and I have given, but it was to the point that I believe that we needed to move more swiftly. We have representatives we have Dr. Wims from Alabama A&M, and then we have representatives from Alabama State. The deal is when I called, because of the fact that we are looking for partnerships that the county can utilize as it relates to HBCU, that's when Gene and I, we actually just talked now, but we've been talking back a while, a couple of months ago, as it relates to this game. The school itself right now has made it clear where they need to be financially. And they're trying to do some things. Of course, our president, he has received his master's degree from A&M University. A lot of people didn't know that. So bottom line is that I wanted to make sure that you could say for the record our conversation, which is the fact that, this number didn't just come out of the sky as relates to $750,000. That this is contingent for you to continue on to be able to promote this game. So if you don't mind to go ahead and speak.
We've been very pleased to have managed the Magic City Classic for 23 years. We've watched it grow over those 23 years. Dr. Wims and his counterpart, Dr. Ross, are great partners. This is the largest HBCU Classic in the country. $23 million in economic impact is phenomenal. We sell tickets in 36 states. And we've reached an inflection point. The contract with the city and for Legion Field and with my organization has expired. So we're at the table with the schools. The schools, rightfully so, are requesting a substantial increase in their commitment from the Sports Council to continue to play the game with us managing it. They have a memorandum of understanding to keep the Classic at Legion Field, but they are now talking to us. And as we're trying to piece together the funding sources, we have a hole. And in order to make the numbers work, the funding from the county would allow us to invest in the game right here in Jefferson County, because I understand this money is coming from the Economic Development Fund. So this is about making the game bigger by investing in people, by investing in marketing, to try and get more out of county, out of state visitors to come to the Classic. I think there is upside potential to the Classic. We can take it to the next level. But this funding that we're requesting would help us do that. And it would help us, I believe, achieve the objectives of both of the member institutions and ink a deal to keep the Classic under our tutelage. And this young man right here runs it. He works 365 days a year on the Classic, making it what it is. But there's room for growth. And that's where this money comes in. We understand we need to provide the county a return on its investment. This is not about the county just giving money and us saying thank you. This is about us taking that money, investing it in this county to make the game grow so we can give the schools what they need. Barry, do you want to add a few words to that?
No, I agree with everything you said. Again, good morning, thank you. And again, Gene did explain my tardiness, and that was very accurate. But what it does, I think, for our aspect and last point would be that it helps us be able to future-proof what that looks like. So as we continue to grow from 36 states, for us, what good looks like is when we're starting to touch 40 states. So to be able to continue to drive and make sure that there's a really good return for the investment of Jefferson County, to be able to make sure that this event has well beyond the 82 years here. Again, there's no guarantees to make sure we're offsetting some of the inflation that we're starting to see kind of hit all assets.
One other thing I'd like to add, Mr. Orlo's touched on this, but this is a multi-day event. It's not just the Saturday, but on that Saturday we have a parade. And it's hard to know how many people are watching a parade, but it's well into six figures. And we were successful a couple of years ago in getting it televised live, statewide, which brings visitors from all over our state. When they see the parade one year, then I like to believe they may come back the next year to see it in person. They may not even go to the game, but they'll stay in a hotel, they'll eat in our restaurants, and help those entities that were most impacted by the pandemic, our retail economy. And they're still recovering, and the Classic is part of the solution to making them whole.
Mr., did you have a question? You were about to say something? Anyone about to say anything? Okay, so if you all don't mind, if you should. So President
I
Williams.
have a question. Gene, you said that this will get it to the next level. What is the level now and what is the next level you're referring to?
The next level is to enhance the fan experience, to do some things to make it even more appealing to come. And to have the marketing dollars that will allow us to work with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, to work with the Alumni Association, to reach groups of people, to come in by bus, plane, train, whatever it may be, to make this even bigger than it's been. Joe, it's the largest HBCU classic in the country, but there is room for growth. And I'm convinced there's room for growth, and it's part of our mission to use this money to give the county a positive return on its investment.
And this, as I understand, is gonna stay at Legion Field for till 26, is that right?
There is a memorandum of understanding with the city for a 4-year commitment to Legion Field. And we're requesting a 3-year commitment from the county.
Oh,
Anyone else?
I have a question for you, Ms. Scales. You said that the school has made it clear that they need to be financially compensated.
Yes,
At what amount?
well, they can speak for themselves, that's why they're here today. So, Mr. Robinson, if you can introduce yourself and speak to the entity that you represent. Either one of you all want to speak on behalf of Alabama State? Anyone here on behalf of Alabama State? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Good morning to commissioners for sure, Mr. Scales, Mr. Tyson, who helped lead this effort. Good morning, you, sir. We are here just, first of all, happy that the community continues to take interest and now are making that interest shown now that they feel about the Magic City Classic. I am a child of Birmingham, daughter of Birmingham forever. Both parents are Alabama A&M graduates. And this is essential to the core of Birmingham and the community, what the Classic has become. It's not just a game, it is an event. And it is the largest event which we happen to have, as you all guys know, in both the city and the county. So we're just happy that along with the city and now the county, with the Alabama Sports Commission, that we're really coming together as a partnership. Because we're here to try to do what's best for the students. And while the game and the event is what everybody gets excited about, at the end of the day, we're trying to raise the bar. We talk about what the next level is. The real next level for us is what we're going to do for our student athletes, for our students in general. So raising the level is raising the whole entity and the diacon which we come to from Alabama A&M University, what we do for our 6,000 plus students. So we just want to thank you for that commitment. We hope the Classic is here another 50 years. My son says they're not going to be able to play football in 50 years. They're too big and too strong. But we hope to continue to enjoy this as long as we can. And thank you in advance for your support. And we'll move on.
If I can add, Commissioner,
Yes.
I want to thank Mr. Robinson, but Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I also want to thank.
You won't tell them who you are?
My name is Dan Williams. I humbly serve as President of Alabama Agricultural and Capital University in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you for having us here. I don't know if you guys have cameras here at every meeting.
Oh, you bro.
But you should attend some of our board meetings as well. But I just want to personally thank the Commission for the support that you've already rendered us, and particularly Commissioner Tyson, Commissioner Scales, who supports the Magic City Classic Enterprise, but Commissioner Tyson, who supports the institutions directly for discretionary dollars. This is very important for us. And we support the request. Mr. Harlan said we have a gentleman's agreement to continue the Classic in Legion Field. But you have to understand that in this enterprise of Division I athletics, there's inflation that is exponentially rising every year for student support, for facilities, infrastructure, etc. So for our largest enterprise in the state of Alabama, athletics, for HBCUs and
And so, did that answer your question? If it didn't, okay, so, Jim, if you don't mind, the question obviously is regarding, the ask of the institutions. And so if you can, I know the number that was given to me from one of the institutions, and then we've talked, so if you can give a range in terms of where each school needs to be and the total.
Each school, under the new arrangement that we're discussing, will receive after expenses in excess of $1 million, maybe closer to $1.2 million per school. That's inclusive of the city of Birmingham contribution that's already in a memorandum of understanding. The way we get there is to make a guarantee to these institutions that money's gonna be there. The way we get to the guarantee is by taking monies from sponsors. The private sector steps up in a huge way for this game. McDonald's is the title sponsor, Coke is the presenting sponsor. We would take the money that the county is contemplating providing the game, invest in the game. We're taking a risk. It's a 501c3. Our board chairman is Larry Thornton, a distinguished Alabama State graduate, but a lover of the classic. And he has told us, he has enabled us through the board of the Alabama Sports Council to proceed ahead. If we get sufficient funding from the county, we're ready to sit down at the table, finalize the deal with both schools, and move forward.
Did I answer your question?
Because actually, one final thing, time is ticking. It's February. We have sponsors calling us right now. Where are we with October? We want to renew. We want to spend more money. So time is urgent.
What's the date of the game?
The last Saturday in October.
The bottom line, you need 700, cause do I need to bring up the conversation that me and you had?
No, the number that's in the contract is $750,000. I don't have a precise number that is needed. It's going to be a number that I hope is well into six figures, but I don't have a magical, it's got to be this number, because I'm not about to tell the commission, we've got to have this or else. I'm not going to back you guys into a corner.
Hold on, Commissioner, if you don't mind. So let me say how this number came about. That came from speaking to the universities in terms of themselves directly and board members. And so being that there was, and I'm being cautious how I say this in a public setting, there was a number that the schools have said they got too clear. And that has been what the issue is that the schools look at the Classic as more than just a game. They've got to do some more as it relates to their institutions. And so therefore, that's why this ask has come to you all at minimum $2.4 million. Because 1.2 times 2 is 2.4 all day. And that's the reason why I didn't want it to be, I wanted to exercise what our president says all the time about communication. I wanted them to be present so that if it was any untruth, here's the day to make that
I'm
known.
not concerned with the $1.2 million because as far as I'm concerned, y'all can get $5 million. Cause that ain't none of my business. That's what you got presidents for. So what they ask for, that's between them and you.
Right.
My concern is what you want from the county. In the conversation that you had with the president, this started week before last. When the proposal came up with the, what's the name of the
Transplant game.
transplant game. That's how the whole conversation started.
Right.
Now, how much do you need to make them whole to where they can get $1.2 million?
Well, this-
That's what that ain't what I was told. That's why this is what you said. So I don't like this. And y'all already know. Don't, cause I don't have a lot of time. If you told him one price and said something else. So let's see, what is the price?
Commissioner, what I was,
I've been hearing too many different prices.
Can I, because if it's, what Gene's already said is that it's it's an investment.
Right.
We're investing, right?
Right.
But we have to look at a return on investment,
Right.
what that investment looks like. So when we had the transplant game conversation last time, I went back and looked at the economic impact. I just did the direct, just so we had comparison purposes, and did a little analysis, just so we could make from one to the other. And let me explain just real quick.
And when you finish, I want to make sure that we have the same, because I want the record to be very clear in terms of how we got to this number. The number didn't come from Mr. Hall. What the numbers came from were my direct contact, not only with the president, okay, which is here today, and in addition to that, some board members of the opposite institution, right? And so the point is that this $750,000, as I explained to the president, okay, which I haven't heard back from the president. I've also made sure that all your questions have been asked, okay? Everyone knows.
Lots of
Okay,
information.
hold on just a moment. All of us should be at that point where we can communicate. And what I've done is to make sure that any question that has come up, that not only do I answer you verbally, but I answer it in writing. And so even with this, Commissioner Tyson and you and I had a discussion as relates to how this $750,000 came about too. So that's why they're here today, to stand for themselves, to say this is how we got to this number. In other words, the game cannot continue. My main concern, and then I will entertain what you said. My main concern is that I think that we're getting into what we did with Alabama and Auburn. That if we keep taking these large economic impact gains, and we don't do what we need to do to support them, they will eventually go to their own institutions, renovate their institutions, or invest in their own institutions, and leave this county altogether. So I'll go ahead and entertain what you want to distribute at this time.
I just, this morning did a quick analysis based off all the information that you sent.
I have some more for you to consider.
So what I have is the top line, and I compared the classic and the numbers given on the direct economic impact, which I think that came more off of the December memo that came from John. The transplant games, that was the economic impact that was delivered at our last meeting, and then the World Police and Fire Games. We compared all of those together. And our portion, since we're being asked to spend general fund dollars other than the part that's earmarked. All of our 2 pennies of sales tax goes to 0.033 of those 2 pennies actually goes to our general fund. If you don't know, the room nights that we get, that all goes to Convention Visitor Bureau and the BJCC. And so the next line, expected general fund revenue, and it's different. The classic is different. It was 12.5 in the economic impact, and I put this on the memo. So it was a little bit less on this. So I mean, it's not going to make that much difference in the overall. And then the line below that is the investment. If it was 400, like transplant games was a $2.2 million. I'm sorry, 10.2 million economic impact. The expected general fund revenue was $336,000. We invested $300,000 for a net of $36,600, with a general fund ROI of about 12%. So doing a comparison of both police and fire games, it was 24, and if we did the classic at 400,000, then it would be basically a revenue neutral. But that is just direct. That does not contemplate indirect. But each one of these is just direct impacts, that money, economic impact that we got from the Convention Visitor Bureau. So just as a, if we're an apples to apples comparison, we're not going to get that, because the transplant games and World Police and Fire are multi-day events, but you said this is a multi-day event. So, maybe it is a little bit more inclusive of that. But just I never met a spreadsheet I didn't like. And just to throw some numbers down to take a look, I just wanted to share. That's what I've come up with. So backing into a number, I understand that like any other event, it's up to you to raise the money beyond what you get from the public sector or to go to the private sector and fill that. So I didn't mean to answer her question, but I felt it was important that what does an investment look like potentially from us, from my perspective, and how I got it.
So, Commissioner, I appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. So, here's what I want everyone to refer to. In 2018, we had $20,151,512, right? Okay, that's the year we were elected. 2019, sure that, Joe, you remember that. We were at $18,482,148. And yet,
That's direct aimed at.
hold on.
I'm just asking for the.
All dollars count. All dollars count. Okay, because I'm gonna get to your report too, just bear with me. All right, so we invested in 2019, $200,000, right? First and only time that this commission as a body took an action like that. Your return on investment was $18,482,148. Don't matter how you look at it, that's a whole lot of more percentages than what we just talked about. Also, 2021, even post-COVID, this game has never lost money. It's always been profitable. That's $12,615,965, even post-COVID. 2022, $21,830,965. You asked me a very good question, and I wanted to let you know I took some thought because I respect everyone on this commission. I thought it was only fair. You asked about the return on investment in terms of what does the county actually receive. I want you to look at page number 1, 2018. As you see, I have an arrow. I got with the finance department. You will notice consistently that variance in terms of from October to November, which November is the month in which you see those dollars realized. You'll see that the variance, for example, general sales tax doubled, went up to 10.74%. 2018, when we speak of special revenue sales tax, I lined it up again, 2.38. 2018 again, got a variance between 18 and 19 that was 18.2%. These are dollars that we realized as a county. Also, 2018-19, we went up by 8.5%. That's double again. Alcohol beverage tax, we were at 4.59%. I'm sorry, page 2. Please forgive me. Refer to page 2. You'll see everything is underlined in blue, which is the variance. Also, additional alcohol tax, 8.1%. 2018-19, 4.44% in terms of variance. Next page, 18 to 22 comparison. You went from 18.42% to 30.20%. Okay, almost double again. 18 versus 22, fiscal year 22. You leveled out for special revenue sales tax. Lodging tax, big difference. You're at 0.3, is 3.3. I know you barely can see it. But then it went up to 25.31%. That's a huge difference. Fiscal year 18 to 22, in terms of gasoline tax, went from 26.5 to 40.47. Again, you all can take these numbers and see throughout this report, we consistently, from October to November, the game is always held the last week in November. The time. Go ahead.
So, and I don't dispute that
No, I'm
there's
here to
a
answer all your
big,
questions.
there's a big economic impact, but the difference from what you're saying here is like the lodging tax. We see zero of that.
Okay.
So I'm talking about, my numbers were related to general fund.
Okay.
That, because we know that, between convention visitors, BJCC, we have energy care fund, so that eventually it's, we have the.
But it still comes to this region commission.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when we talk about sales tax, what funds this economic development fund is sales tax. Okay?
Right, yeah.
And hold on, that's why I got a copy of that this morning. because the dollars that are realized comes through that tax that allows us to do economic development projects,
Absolutely.
period.
Absolutely.
But hold on just a moment. So I wanna be clear in terms of, this came from Travis Holsey, so that we know that these are numbers that are internal numbers in terms of where we are. You made an interesting point, and I'm glad that you referred to this document. Even though I had placed this on the side, and so the conversation did just start 2 weeks ago. You brought up transplant games in terms of at the last meeting. Last meeting, you asked me as relates to a contract today. We didn't even have a resolution associated with the backup of that, and I thought it was a great item for economic development. We supported it at $300,000, and this game has never been played in this market, period. However, the Magic City Classic, conversely, has been here for more than 80 years. Started at Legion Field in 1940 and has never, hold on, Commissioner.
But you're going down a road.
No, I'm not going down the road. What I'm saying is, what you said is that, well, what was stated, Mr. Pro Tem, is that the game, this game, who makes a more significant impact economically, should only receive $100,000 more than a game we've never had. Let me tell you something else that I did, if you all will oblige. We keep talking about this economic development fund, so let's talk about it very quickly. Here you are, Commissioner. We have done the World Games, as we know, that went into a deficit, okay? We, if you look on here, in terms of sporting events, $2.5 million came directly out of this economic development fund. Altogether for the World Games, we spent more than $11 million to try to help pay off the deficit. But when it came down to this particular event, we had a multi-year agreement, which is what is before us today, at $750,000 that you know brings a profit consistently. And we took a risk on the World Games that was being paid $500,000 for a total of 5 years, right? Okay, you drop down to World Police and Fire Games. We in 21 invested $500,000. We in 22 invested another $500,000. That's $1 million, okay? And so we have not had this game. We don't know what the return is going to be. However, we at number 3 in terms of games again, $300,000. Now, I made sure, and that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that I had this particular document that you all can refer to, that this game is expected in terms of the last game that we just approved $5.3 million, as a matter of fact, related to entertainment 2 weeks ago. And this report that you provided, and I printed off, basically said that you're looking for approximately, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, roughly about 10,000 folk, you said?
Correct, with athletes and band.
10,000 folk and about what, $10 million return? We're talking about the Magic City Classic that draws over 100,000 people, and you're talking about a return of more than $22 million. And yet you say that we're almost incrementally balanced out. That wouldn't be true, not based on the numbers.
Well, look, I'm going based off the one report that came back from convention visitors, the memo from December, said 12.155. So I was using that number in my.
But Commissioner, when this report was updated, you sent me back a receipt that told me that you received it. I made sure that every commissioner received the updated so that we were very clear.
I would update $300,000.
And here's the point, and I think every commissioner needs to make sure that we pay attention to this. This economic development fund that I just passed out has already engaged itself at 10 separate events in just this year alone. Right now, we have $22,587,676 in this account. For the Magic City Classic, if we were to approve it, I pray that we do, it would only reduce it to $21,837,676, which means, Commissioner, with all due respect, this particular fund, by way of the fiscal policy, which I'm sure we all should have, okay, for this particular fund in terms of the way we can spend money from this fund, okay, then we meet the requirements in terms of the Magic City Classic. It brings jobs, it brings cultural arts, it also brings tourism dollars to this region. And not only does it help the city of Birmingham, it also helps the entire county, which consists of 35 cities. Unlike when we were talking about the World Games, and we continue to put money, and they still owe money, this doesn't just help hotels in Birmingham. People who lodge that come to the Magic City Classic, they're in Hoover, they're in Vestavia, they're in all of these different properties, and they are all filled to capacity. So when we speak of the World Games, which should have profited the entire county, it did not. And we continue to finance it. Here's something that we know is a guarantee. We have a friend here who's been working with it for 23 years, have never lost. And we're talking about $750,000 to come from an economic development fund that refuels itself every year at a tune of $10 million. So it will never be a deficit that we couldn't pay, because that same sales tax that this game allows for us to be able to have, it goes to that fund to help pay for itself. So I wanted to make sure that we brought everyone to the table, because I don't know where 400 came from. I was never told of $400,000, to be honest with everyone. I never heard that from one commissioner that's here today, and I didn't hear it absent of the president. But I do know when it comes to the fiscal policy, we do meet the requirements. And so as the HBCU liaison, we've always talked about the schools getting money versus Alabama Sports Council. Now here's a time when the two schools have married to this agreement to say that this is where we need to be, and the county is helping through the Alabama Sports Council to be able to get these schools where they need to be financially. Yes, ma'am.
So let me ask you this. This money that we give, I'm claiming it, whether it's 400, 500, $1 million is going to your sports foundation.
Yes.
So your responsibility is to give 1.2 million to the college.
Right.
So we're giving it to y'all, not the college, right? To the sports foundation.
But it enables us
To
raise the money
for them.
for the.
So can you raise it with 400, 500, 750? What's the lowest you can raise it with? Because it's going to you.
Right.
I'm not held really for you to get no money. I'm held trying to get y'all money. Okay? I'm just be honest about the whole thing.
So hold on.
So what is it? What do you need? Because tell me what you need.
So hold on, Commissioner.
That's the
Hold on.
question. She's asking.
I'm asking him a question because I just need to know, because I'm getting ready to go. I'm just letting you know.
I've had separate conversations with each commissioner prior to this meeting. And I was asked, could various figures support our mission to give them the guarantee? And a game is very fungible in terms of attendance, it's weather dependent, sponsorships are economic dependent. I'm not trying to evade your question, Mr. Tyson, but
That would look like you trying to
No, I'm-
scared or something.
no.
Or act like.
No, let me finish, please. If it's $400,000, we could possibly make it work and give them the guarantee. There is a chance at the end of the 3-year agreement, we say to the schools, we cannot sustain this model, and the number cannot be $1.2 million per school, because the 400 could possibly work, or it might not work. And it's not a black and white question, because there are so many variables related to revenue with the Classic. Over 60% of our revenue comes from the private sector. The private sector is going to invest in this game as a function of the economy. And right now, it's rather uncertain economic times. So it's difficult to say definitively that 400, 500, 600 would work. Obviously, the higher the number goes, the greater the cushion the Sports Council has to make sure that we sustain the schools at the level that they're requesting.
So let me add this also. The number doesn't come, again, I wanna say this, stress this to the commission. The numbers are not coming from Mr. Hallman. The contract is to engage Mr. Hallman to ensure that these schools are adequately paid.
But you're already engaged to do this, right?
No.
That's the
But
point.
that's what you're trying to put it all together and develop it.
And so my
Same
point,
thing you've been doing.
This is the last piece of building our funding model to see our way clear to satisfy their request, which I think is a reasonable request.
So you the one raising the money, the schools ain't raising the money, right? All you want is your 1 point. I want you to get them their money. That's the goal. Now, that's just the bottom line. If she put on here $750,000, I want her to get her contract whatever she wants if that's what it takes. But if I'm not gonna go back and forth with this, they should have been giving the class money. This ain't nothing new. That's why I gave you $50,000 of my discretionary money, and everybody could have gave you some, but they didn't. They have made bad decisions on voting on the world games and everything else. I voted against it.
I think you gave us 100,000.
Yeah. So I don't have time for this. So can you give them folks their money that they asking you for or not? That's it.
but to give you more clarification, Commissioner.
If he can do, he need to do it. If he can't, you get you somebody else can.
Well, that's the point, Commissioner.
I have to find somebody.
Well, here's the point, Commissioner. The Classic has earned its merit to receive funding to the tune of what these schools are asking. The point that needs to be clear, if Mr. Hallman, and I don't like referring to you as much as an agency, the Alabama Sports Council. Right. If the Alabama Sports Council doesn't receive this $750,000, it makes it more challenging for them to guarantee the schools what they are asking. The schools have already dug their heels in. They're saying we're gonna either get between 1.2 or $1.5 million, or we ain't doing a game. But see, they're here, so that nobody has to say we going back and forth. They are negotiating on behalf of their institutions and their students and faculty. So they have made it very clear. Between 2.4 and $3 million. We're gonna either do this, and that's what, as a matter of fact, so you know, Commissioner, in the past, there wasn't a buyout. The schools have opted at this point to do a buyout, which means.
I know.
Okay, I'm not saying you don't know, Commissioner, I was talking about the amount of money. The point is that the schools have said, we wanna guarantee from now on, when we bring these, we come and do this game, we got the numbers, we have the economic impact, we know what we bring to the table, we wanna be treated fairly. This allows the Alabama Sports Council to engage each school at $1.2 million and not have to be worried about how they're going to pay them. Otherwise, they don't have it. And that's the reason why I asked Mr. Hallman to come here and state this for the record himself. And I was available if anyone had any questions. The thing is that this Economic Development Fund, it's not struggling. It has over $22 million in this fund for projects such as this. And as a matter of fact, last week, in good faith, because I believed in your presentation, we allowed you to do a resolution, and all we had was this one piece of paper. And we did $300,000. I'm sitting here with a Bible, and I'm showing, hold on, Commissioner.
But if you're gonna compare, let's compare
Well,
appropriately, because that was just so CDD could go after it. There
Okay.
still has to be a resolution that comes back
Okay.
that says, here's
So
overall.
can I tell you what it is, Commissioner? The action that we're being asked to do today is to also put the Alabama Sports Council in a position where they can say to these universities, right, that we can guarantee you your money. That's what this exercise, it's the same thing. It may be presented differently, but it's the same thing, Commissioner. And so that's the reason why I said, I don't understand, we meet all the criteria.
This contract, which was not in the blackout.
Yeah, it was.
I understand you put it there, but.
I didn't put nothing there.
I just checked with Millie, and it was not there.
Well, it was there as
But
of
it
Friday, I
was.
saw it online, I saw it online,
And-
okay, and all you had to do was press back
All
up.
right, let me look at this. Let me ask, I got a couple of things. Number one, I think you misspoke when you said how much the county has put in the World Games. You said 11 million, it was 9 total.
You want me to tell you how it got to 11 million?
2.5 out of the general, fund from economic development. The rest of it was, CARES Act department.
Okay, and also we paid over $1 million for the sheriff's department to also be able to provide law enforcement for the game. It doesn't matter either way you look at it, those ARPA dollars are the same dollars we've been converting to take care of everything we've been doing.
All right, now here's, you know, we've got this ask of the schools of 1.2 million. It would be helpful to me to know what the ask was in 2020, 2019, what the history of the payout to the schools have been. And I don't know if we have that number.
This is the first time they have done this. This is the first time.
The payout from us to the schools has grown each and every year, with the exception of 1 or 2 years, over the 23-year history.
Right. Sure.
This past year, both schools, inclusive of the city funding, inclusive of the discretionary funding from both commissioners, is gonna be 780, 790, which is a record. But now we're looking to go to 1.2 million, and it's a guarantee payable within 45 days after the classic is done, so that they walk in risk-free, despite the rain, despite the economy, or whatever else may influence the bottom line. Which is not an unreasonable request.
Well, sure.
So it's
If I
a,
were them, I would be at that number too, but you're saying it was, the last year was
780,
and we're gonna jump to 1.2
yes,
over the next, each year for 3 years, is that the way that?
correct.
Okay. That was my question.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have any other statements? I do want to say in closing that, I think we all kind of get excited about what we do when we believe that is something that warrants the commission's attention. I will say that it was very imperative that the president of A&M be present, along with his delegation and athletic director, as a matter of fact, and along with Mr. Hallman and everyone involved. I would like to think that if we're basing everything on the numbers, not the demographics in terms of the game, only the economics, we have taken quite a bit of risk over this past 12 months. And risk, I'm talking about a one-time event, such as the World Games, such as police and fire, such as the transplant games. We know that a commitment from both institutions have been solid for the past 80+ years. And I would hate to think that we don't see the value in our own coffers. Birmingham has agreed to step up by $1 million, $4 million for renovations to Legion Field, and a part of that is at the request, as a matter of fact, of the institutions. The institutions have shown themselves to be loyal. The only thing that I would ask of us is, based on face value, and knowing that we have this particular fund that is available, this will be, as far as I'm concerned, the only game that would probably be considered urban in nature, that out of all of these projects that are on this particular list for Economic Development Fund, that we actually have that exist. So if we're only going by the numbers, I think that it speaks for itself, and I would ask at this particular time if we would entertain knowing what Mr. Hallman has indicated where he needs to be in order to give these schools a guarantee, because that's what the schools are asking for now. This is not coming from Mr. Hallman. The schools are saying we must have a guarantee or we have no deal. And so I'm asking us to be a part of the solution so that we can continue to have the largest HBCU game in Jefferson County that benefits all 35 cities of Jefferson County and beyond. Any questions?
I'd make understanding, and you said the numbers. So the numbers that I pulled on direct investment, or direct impact, it as a general number, if we have to have, something to compare to those other events that are coming. And just because we have money in a fund doesn't mean that we necessarily need to spend it. And we're talking about return on investment. Knowing that there has been for the last 80 years that this has been in place. I would ask that we reduce it to 400,000, that on direct impact, it makes us neutral. That, and do that for 1 year, but understanding that the Alabama Sports Council come back for the following year and say, yes, that was good, that wasn't good, and let's take a look at it again to see if it does need to be more.
Commissioner,
That would be my request.
so Commissioner, I'm gonna speak to your motion. Commissioner Tyson and I have done $150,000 out of our own funds. What you're asking for is only $250,000 above that, okay? And the numbers themselves, since you're saying about the numbers, doesn't warrant that. You're only talking about $250,000 more than what we give on our own. Yet it benefits your area. You know, when I pull this particular item, sticking to the motion, I noticed that even when we look at DGA, when we look at even for City of Vestavia, since we're talking, City of Vestavia just received this year $1.5 million. You thought that was economic development. We know this is economic development because we have actual numbers. I don't understand where this $400,000 is coming from. It didn't come from Mr. Hallman's organization. It certainly didn't come from the schools.
It came from my sheet.
It came from your sheet that had a one-time gain at $300,000, and you didn't have a resolution. You had no backup. You had one sheet of paper at $300,000, and I've spoken to Convention and Visitors Bureau. They're only expecting 10,000 attendees. So I don't
get why you're comparing one to the other.
Because they're all sporting events.
Take it on its merit, and I said
They're sporting events, and if this were to stand on its merit,
that they are not similar.
do you not want them to guarantee
different.
these schools
I do, but
a game?
that's on the Alabama Sports Council to fill the rest of it with private dollars that would go into it. I mean, it would be their responsibility to fill the rest of it, that he can make his numbers.
So if you're telling me that they should reduce this to private dollars, then should the county not only just accept based on its investment then?
I'm talking
Because
about
this
our
fund
investment
now,
in return,
I'm
that's
saying-
where I need to be on
I'm
the-
saying
on
this
the right that
fund
we need to be.
is funded by the sales tax that the Magic City Classic draws to this region.
I agree.
I don't get your math, but I get the political math.
There's nothing political about it. It's all based on the number.
No, that's the number that you came up with.
Look, you're talking about an economic development fund.
No,
Just because there's money there, doesn't mean we need to spend it, and there should be a return on investment.
are you the only one that determines if we
No
spend it?
ma'am, no ma'am. That's
Okay.
why I offer a motion.
And so,
Let's do this, and I wanna kind of tag on to your motion. In this economic development fund, each time we fund a game, we do it in $500,000. I would amend your motion to do a $500,000 payment, and then I accept the rest of your motion to do let's do it, let's take a look at it, and then reevaluate it, at a $500,000 funding level for.
are you saying you only want to do it for 1 year instead of 3 years? Is that, well, the schools are asking, Mr. Pro
I
Tem,
understand.
So let me do amendment to your. Let's do the $500,000 for 3 years.
second,
I'm talking.
We had an
Second.
initial motion.
Wait, I'm losing total control here.
no, I'll tell you, you had a motion on the floor and you said you had an amendment. Well, hold on, I'm gonna tell you exactly, Mr. Pro Tem. Okay.
Let me be the pro tem.
Okay, well, please, Go ahead, I got you.
We had an amendment, a motion, and I offer, an amendment to the motion.
Well, we never accepted his motion, and so you just did an amendment without us even accepting his motion.
All right, so,
You
So
remember
you
you
created
the one
a new
that.
motion.
so let's
No, you
just,
re-
let's
you
just
created a
wipe
new
that
Robert's
slate
Rules of
clear.
Order.
Let's wipe that slate clear. You got a motion, Ms. Gill?
No, Commissioner Tyson does.
I just,
All right, Ms. Tyson.
just please, just do this. Can we just get along?
It depends. That depends on if she gets her way or not.
I have a motion on the floor to second.
All right, you got a motion for,
It's for committee.
yeah.
You ready for me to go on carry?
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
Carry.
Okay, alright, so, motion has been made for $500,000 for a term of 3 years. It has been motioned and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Okay, alright, so do we have another motion that we'd like to entertain at this point?
I would move that we do a $500,000 contribution to the sports council, one time, for 1 year.
Mr. President, I pro tem, I have, a motion.
I'm gonna amend that.
Okay, well, I was about to
There's a
amend
motion,
it.
I'll second.
Motion.
Yeah, but she still can do an amendment. Go ahead.
Okay, on the, you said for a year, but we're gonna go back in that year and look at it being raised if they need it.
We don't know.
And what, that's what I want,
Post game.
but I wanna put in there. I wanna put it in there, I want them black and white.
So Commissioner, I have a motion, please, if you entertain it at this time. I make a motion that we do the total amount of $750,000 at 1 year with pending information to be returned on, as relates to the return on investment.
We didn't vote on the first motion.
No, well, Robert's Rules of Order though, Mr. Pro Tem.
Well, we can add motion on top. Motion.
No,
amendment
no,
on
but
top of
no,
amendment.
but all you do, no, when you do an amendment, the amendment takes precedence over the principal item.
So your
So-
amendment is what?
I'm actually making a motion, Mr. President. I'm saying if we're going to do it at 1 year, since seemingly you wanna do it at 1 year, why don't you do the full amount at $750,000 to see if it is worth for the 2 remaining years to do $750,000. Don't decapitate them for being in a position not to give these schools a guarantee and then set them up for failure when we go to look at next year funding them. Because that's what's happening right now.
That's your motion.
Yeah, that's my motion, and you got Mr. Hallman standing there on behalf of the sports council. These schools are demanding are you? I'm sorry.
Get a motion.
Yeah, and then, do you second for 1 year, $750? Okay, so it has been, okay, it has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, let it know by saying aye. Aye? Okay, so where you wanna be?
I want to do $500,000 for 1 year
And coming back
and
to
reevaluate.
review it at the end of the games to see about funding for the remainder, the following.
Okay, just wait.
That's the second.
I understand, trust me, I understand. And I'm not rushing, I be late for the children, for them. You can do that with $500,000. It's gonna be different.
Yes.
You got every contract in Alabama, he can do it. He can do it.
Our margin of risk gets higher
It
if
does.
it rains, if sponsorships come in.
Well, I got faith in you.
No, well, the schools is
The
what's
school
making
won't-
it, is driving the demand. The school is
I
driving the
understand
demand.
We've got to build a sustainable model that allows us to pay the schools what they're required.
Well, we'll be over here all day.
But what's gonna happen, Commissioner, just so
We
that
gonna,
you
we
know.
vote Monday, we vote Thursday, so this is just.
I understand that Jimmy probably show up Thursday, but I'm gonna just say this, Commissioner, with all due respect. What's gonna happen, and you got the president sitting right here listening to all of this dialogue. This game is gonna end up being at a 1-year contract. And it's gonna be up for grabs in terms of whether or not they choose to play here. I wanna go on the record as saying it, so you all won't say you didn't know and all that kind of stuff. We don't get this right today. The schools, not Mr. Hallman, the schools have made it very clear that they are not playing, that they're going to receive they got stipends. They are ready to go ahead and get paid. And they're gonna either do it because I'm telling you, the president is very clear, and I'm saying it in his presence. You may not have to vote on the game. That's what every commissioner who's sitting under the sound of my voice needs to understand. This game is willing to walk away. So if you say that and you believe that and nobody cares about the economic impact of the Magic City Classic, don't worry about it. There will probably come a day very soon you won't even have to entertain it altogether. Because what he has told you, and I think everybody don't want to hear this, no contract has been signed. None whatsoever. So you are leaving this game in limbo. A game that has proven to be profitable for this region, and we've now brought it down to 1 year at 500. You don't want to do multiple years, which is what's before us today. You don't want to do the entire amount, because again, Commissioner Tyson, I want to be clear, this money is going to help these schools with this buyout. And they are willing to walk away. This is not me saying it. They're here. You ain't heard nobody interrupt me yet.
I hadn't heard them say that.
Okay, well, would you like to stand, Mr. Robinson? I don't want to put the president on the spot.
Why not? The head is here, let the head.
Well, he has to speak on behalf, he has to get permission from his board. And that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that we're clear in terms of where we are.
Yeah, Commissioner, I don't think, Commissioner Scales and Ms. Spoke, we are in negotiation phase, and negotiations are just that. So, to the point, if you cannot get a deal at the end of a negotiation, what do? You find another alternative. So
negotiation is with us or with him?
negotiation will be with our sports council.
But your negotiation
But
or
these
commission is
funding,
contingent.
I
It's
just
funny.
still we down to 2 votes, so that's all I can. I'm just trying to work with what we got.
Well, hopefully with the new information that has just been received, that everyone understands what's at stake here. Because every time, and you and I have been very committed, even when you said I was wrong about the World Games, you're talking about out of this fund, Joe. But here's the point. When it went into a deficit, we voted to support it. We still voted to give another $5 million to a game that was bleeding at the seams. We came back, we did another $1.2 million or whatever as it relates to making sure that law enforcement was present. I don't understand what we are struggling with today. This game has proven its merit. We have the numbers. You're talking about the Economic Development Fund. If not now, when does it profit the other parts of this county? This county is made up of all races of people, all demographics. So what I'm saying is, this won't even be a conversation if we don't get this money right.
Mr. Knight, may I make a
Sure.
suggestion from the floor? Is to give consideration to a 3-year, $500,000 per year, where we return after year 1, and if we show the economic impact and documentation, then the council can give, our commission can give consideration to raising it in subsequent years. That way, that allows us to.
You have to sit in my chair, sir. I'm the finance chair of this county. And we're trying, and I've supported the Classic before. Took hell for it, but I did. All right, now, what we have to, and I support this game. I really do. I've been to Legion Field.
You come every year.
And I love this game. And I don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings, but I love that A&M band. But still, sir, I'm sitting here. I don't know what I'm going to be looking at from from the county as far as funding, and we just increased our total budget 5% because we gave a COLA to our employees. All right, we've got, it came up last week, we got a multi-million-dollar increase in our health care for this county. We've got, we're staring down the barrel of legislation that's gonna put this commission in the crosshairs on the SSUT legislation that will potentially reduce our revenue. We have no more CARES Act. We have no more ARPA funds. We don't have that, and we don't know where the economy will be. You know, we hear this and we hear that. So, as far as making the commitment yearly, I'm willing to support it now. I'll probably support it next year if we can, and the year after that if we can. But that's why I have to wear this other hat. Even though I support the games and I wear every one of them, but I have to look at it from the glasses of the finance.
So can we put, okay, if we do this, can we bring it before the budget meeting that's ready to come up and put it in the budget?
Hold on, Commissioner. Hold on, Commissioner. You said, hold on, since we're talking about accuracy. You said that you would be concerned, we just signed off 2 weeks ago on an amphitheater for $5 million.
Right.
Okay? That too came out of this economic development fund. This economic development fund receives $10 million every year. Where there is no possible deficit because all the unused funds, they are rolled over by way of resolution, and we're adding $10 million to that same fund. So there is no possibility of a deficit because you got a sales tax by way of a resolution that was passed when you were here a long time ago, right? Okay, and that sales tax, which is in this fiscal policy, is what refuels this particular fund. So there is no possibility of a deficit. It's a matter of a will to want to do it. You get $10 million every single year. You don't miss a year, okay? And as a matter of fact, being honest with you, Ammons, since we talking about reports, I'm gonna look forward to a report since obviously it was your office that spent $29,000 and some change on economic development and recruitment, according to this, right? Okay, so if we're not gonna fund them like we should, I wanna see, well, what's the fruits of that labor? I'm just trying to figure out, we get $10 million a year. Even if we reduce it to $500,000, could we not do it perpetually, seeing that we have a funding source tied to it? That's why we went after the Economic Development Fund instead of the general fund. This is something that we know when we get ready for the bond market, this adds to the economy. These other things that we've been doing actually takes away from the economy. That is something for you to consider, Mr. Finance Chair, because it's adding to the economy.
Yeah, let me answer, because you have a motion in a second, and I'd like to amend my second, because we're all about amendments, right? To support what Gene said, all right? We could do it where there's a clawback. Problem is, if you say 750,000, it's hard to go backwards, right? Very hard. So if we say 500,000, we maintain that if we do it for 3 years, there's an immediate clawback based on, or readjustment based on the details of the post-event audit or your post-event numbers.
So guess what,
And
Commissioner?
hold on,
That's gonna be a second. I'm gonna
done.
second you. Well, he didn't have to finish.
I wanna-
I'm gonna second that.
I get it, but I wanna make sure with President here that we're extremely supportive of the games. And we wanna make sure that you hear that there is a 3-year commitment and it's based on what the Alabama Sports Council is able to do. And I believe in Gene too, and that those guys are gonna get it done, and they're not gonna have any issues, and it's gonna be great, and the fan experience is gonna
So
be
you're
that much
saying
better.
based upon a report, that we receive a report, is that what you're saying?
That they provide a report, and then based on the report, if they're making, you know, the economic impact is 30 million, then they don't need as
Well,
much.
don't say
No,
that.
it's for example, they may not need as much
No, they're
because
gonna
they
need-
did as much, I say. Not nothing, but may not need as much. Or they may need more because it was a bad year and they need to make up for it in the following year.
You
Just
might
for those
wanna ask the
purposes.
county attorney, cause that seems like a whole lot of clawbacking that you put in there, but I will second you, sir, for $500,000, a 3-year term agreement, with the understanding that each year they are to provide a summary report of what the money looks like.
Their after action
Okay.
report.
Okay, well, and in addition to the fact we'll have a Convention and Visitors Bureau to substantiate those numbers that have been provided.
So you ain't planning on taking nothing from it if it's a big,
No, I'm saying if he makes $50 million, he doesn't need us at all.
No, he
so you
doesn't,
gonna,
the
you gonna
game
take the
still
money
needs
away?
it. No, it's
Look,
a
if he's
3-year
making
agreement.
$50 million, he's doing more.
Well,
than
that's what he's
okay.
saying.
He's buying an
That's
island
what- that's what he's
somewhere.
saying.
That's
That's what he's saying.
But no.
That's what
But-
he's saying.
Look, it's
You
not,
take it away.
the agreement,
Let's have.
okay, there's,
I'm gonna just say that y'all about to drive the minute.
Am I correct?
So,
He's saying
so
it.
if you all identify
do you want me to restate?
your motions and.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be predicated on the success of the game, because the success of the game determines the return on investment. So what you're doing, you're putting them in a quagmire. You can't do that, Commissioner. You want them to be successful, and then you want to use their successful as a bullet to kill them. You can't do that. That's not fair. If we're gonna agree, hold on, I'm gonna second what you said if you are fair. You said you do $500,000, 3-year agreement, with the understanding that the Alabama Sports Council will give this commission a report in terms of the spending or whatever it is, in terms of a summary report to justify this $500,000.
And there'll be an adjustment if necessary.
So that means they go,
Hold on. Plus or minus. I think that's
It should
very-
be predicated on the
I
success.
think that's very.
my grandbaby see through that, she just not.
Now, Commissioner, that's not fair.
Just take
Okay,
it
well,
money, just take
you-
it.
you seconded it,
So would you entertain, well, hold on, then let's entertain a motion that at a minimum of $500,000 support with, but because other than that, what you're saying is that you wanna take away from them and use their success. The only way that they can give these schools, I don't know what part of this we're not getting, it's a buyout. It's a buyout. And what you're doing is putting them in a very awkward place, that you're saying that if they are successful, he's gonna have to do more of an agreement to finance them, minus the lack of support from the county that receives the sales tax to even allow for an economic development fund? How do you do that, Commissioner?
So what, at the point that he's able to almost.
Did we say that to the
self-fund-
World Games and they sat around and bled us to death for money?
I don't like the comparison to the World Games.
Well, it's a comparison.
You got a motion, second.
This is.
No, I'm not gonna second that. I'm not gonna hold on, Ms. Pro Tem, respectfully. I'm not gonna second utilizing the success of the game against them. That's not fair. We have said we wanna see a return on investment. Well, a profit is showing a return on investment. If you're telling me we're now gonna we're gonna use that as a clawback to say that then we will give less to the management agency that is helping to ensure the success of the games and that we keep it here in Jefferson County? I don't understand that. So I'm not going, I withdraw my second on that, Mr. President, Ms. Pro Tem.
So we back at the table with $500,000 for 3 years. I put that motion on the floor.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying, I hope you all know that you're making an impact on this president that's sitting in this room. I don't think that we really realize the people that you talking about is that 800-pound elephant that's sitting here in this room, and we going back and forth on something they've worked so hard for, that they've been overly committed to, and all they're asking is that if we got all this respect for their institutions.
Might been a little bit smoother had we got to this a little bit earlier.
But that's not true, because
No, it came up last week.
No,
Yes, it
no,
did.
no, no, no,
Yes,
no, it didn't come, wait a minute, Joe, in all fairness now, if you all decide you wanna call back, we could've had a talk, and if we got airmen sitting right here, they gave us a piece of paper at the last minute, and then, matter of fact, we didn't even have it on the agenda, and then to be accused of last minute, I not only talked to you, I've talked to every single commissioner. Wait, hold on, it doesn't matter. You were off yesterday, everybody was off yesterday, you received, okay,
I was up here.
okay, well, we all were working. But officially, on behalf of the county, we weren't.
I'm right here.
Well, I'm not trying to yell at you, I'm just,
I don't wanna-
well, you should be used to shouting by now.
Can we,
It's uncommon for me to shout. I'm just saying, you all are not being fair. You come here with a piece of paper, Commissioner, respectfully, no resolution, and by Thursday, it's on the agenda. And we passed $300,000. And we're sitting here arguing over
If we don't get it,
80 years
then
of
it's- then
commitment
it's gone. It's not-
from two institutes. Well, if you think, let me just say this, and this goes to you too, Commissioner Knight, then you all better be finding another funding source to help fund your sales tax for your economic development fund. Because everybody wants to take this for granted, all because of the fact, the demographics of this game. Now, I'm saying it as nicely and politely as I can say. Well, you don't have to go with it. It's not fair what you're doing. He comes here with one piece of paper. I'm gonna say that again, whether you can hear it or not.
That's not true.
One-
I don't wanna go there.
He had one sheet of paper,
Let's go back.
and we passed $300,000. And I support it, and it's video. It is video. You had one sheet of paper, no backup in the system. We passed $300,000. If you actually believe in these institutions, to the degree that you say, if you all see Gene Holman and the Alabama Sports Foundation as a friend and a partner, then you will do the right thing. We've come from $750 to $500. Could you not at least make it a 3-year agreement with the understanding that they will bring a report? And that's something that no other entity has done that we've invested in. But at least you're making that a part of your clawback, and the Democrats have agreed to do that.
I thought what was offered for 3 years and fallback was.
Yeah, I don't care. I really want to move off.
So I tell you what, Mr. President, I'm gonna make hold on. I'm gonna make a motion. It seems to me, it doesn't matter if we only have this game for 1 year. I'll move that $500,000 in 1 year. And I'm gonna do just that. And if they walk away, I would have done my part, she did her part, we didn't do our part. All right.
You don't wanna add the 3 year and
Oh.
take a look at it after
No,
that?
Not if you're gonna use it against them, sir.
I'm not using, I'm
If
using
you're
it.
gonna use that success against them, no.
I'm using it to help, to pull data so we actually.
No,
get
we-
numbers.
Well, you don't
So if
wanna
they need
see
more
the
for
data,
future-
here's the data right here.
If they need more for the future after this.
Only to add more and not less.
Okay, look,
If you wanna do more,
go right,
Commissioner,
go right ahead with the.
I said I'm
Right ahead.
confident that
Call for the vote.
alright, been moved and properly seconded, all those in favor let it be known by saying aye.
Uh,
$500,000 for a 1-year agreement, so saith this body this day.
that will be going to Gene Hall now.
No, it's going to the Alabama Sports Council with the understanding. Okay,
Okay.
no, well, it's gonna be with the understanding that the institutions are receiving a buyout, and so, there you have it.
Pro tem, I got to go.
So, Mr.
But
President,
Super Green is coming up and I hate to leave.
is that everything?
That's my heart, y'all.
no, that's your committee.
Huh?
We still got a whole agenda. All right, Ms. Tyson, you're up.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I got to go. I got 200 and some students waiting on me.
All right.
To agree, Miss Laura Hurst. I'm gonna step here real quick if that's okay, and
Feeling well yourself?
Okay, have safe travel.